Welcome to the Buy Box Experts podcast. We bring to light the unique opportunities brands face in today's e-commerce world.
Hey, and welcome to the Buy Box Experts podcast. This is Eric Stopper. Today's episode is brought to you by Buy Box Experts. Buy Box Experts takes ambitious brands and makes them unbeatable. We've got a team of consultants. I am one of them, and we would love to talk with you about your brand on Amazon. We've been doing these really cool audits lately as well that allow us to see how much of your spend is allocated towards keywords that don't make you any money. And it's pretty interesting, right? It's fun to find out, where your money is being spent on Amazon. And for a lot of you, it might really make you upset to say, hey, we're spending $15,000 on ads and only 5,000 of them are actually generating any sales. What do I do with that $10,000? Come and talk to us. We'll give you a free audit. Go to buyboxexperts.com, click on the free analysis button, and you'll be connected with me or a member of my team. Today, I am pleased to be joined by my friend Rushford Lee, partner and owner of Red Core Brands, a company that specializes in building brand campaigns to help companies and founders realize their goals and achieve financial freedom. Rushford and his team have launched over 500 regional and national brands over the last 24 years. They've got tons of examples on their website of work that they've done. Rushford, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So let's just hop right into it. You've got a long history. I mean, you've been at this for 24 years. I kind of want to know what was happening 25 years ago, just to understand how you transitioned into this role, founding and operating Red Core Brands.
I was working in LA. I worked at several companies down there that were POP design houses, and spent about 5-6 years down there. Wanted to come back up to Utah. I love Los Angeles. I lived in Diamond Bar area and La Habra, La Mirada, but wanted to come back up here and finish some education. So we came back up to Utah and did that over the next year or so, and started a little agency, mostly a boutique, just kind of doing graphics and design. And as we started to grow, we really got interested in what really makes customers tick. And so we started, it was called Rushford Ross Orton, and we changed it to Red Core Brands. And we've been doing that, consistently for about 24, going on 25 years next year.
So as the story goes, it's like the winter of 2001, and you were presented some new concepts. So there were kind of some decision makers at the original. Was the company, when did the company become Red Core? What year?
Probably, Red and Red Core over the last 15 years.
Okay. So yeah, we're like 18 years ago, 19 years ago, this conversation happened where there was no data to back up some of the decisions that were going into this project. And on your website, it says that 2 guys at the meeting got into a fight, and for your safety, security escorted y'all out of the building. Can you give me the scoop behind that? What was going on and what ended up happening? That it sounds like that was kind of the critical moment that evolved you into the data-driven brand company that you are today.
Yeah, we had a company, I won't mention the name or anything, but we had been working with them. They had about 4 or 5 vice presidents who had strong downlines. And as we were meeting, it was just a matter that everybody had a strong opinion. And it seemed it was like our 3rd meeting where we presented concepts and ideas. And they were arguing among themselves so much about what they wanted and what they liked. And, it was really our opinion against theirs. And in reality, the 2 of them got into a real battle. One threw a book at the other one, and then the other one turned around and threw his stuff at him. And then they got up and started to push each other around. And the guy I was with kind of grabs me and says, "We got to leave." And he escorted me out of the building. They just had large egos. They were strong men. They had ideas, but we couldn't offer anything different. So on our next round, and we had contacted a couple of BYU professors who were great people, Gary Rhodes and David Whitlark, and just asked Gary, can you help us come up with a way that we could do research for packaging design and for other kind of brand design that would be good for us, that would be something that would really get us the information we need so that when we go in next time, we're not saying, here's what we think, here's what you think, but here's what your customers are thinking. Here's what they feel like is most important to them. These are the attributes that they really would like to see us doing, the emotions they feel as they use the product. And that's something that we started off then and spent about a year and a half with those guys, having them teach us and help us. And it ended up that it turned out to be a really, really good system that we're able to go in and do. And then very, very targeted, find out and help them to know how they should talk about their brand. So, and we had another client where we had gotten used to doing this, went in and sat in a meeting with like 12 different presidents and vice presidents and told them what their customers thought. And the president said, I'd be stupid to go against what my customers are telling me. So let's move forward. And that turned out to be a great brand, a great brand campaign. So yeah, we just didn't like the idea of throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what stuck and then arguing with everybody as to what they thought. So this really helped us to target much better.
Back then, when you guys first started exploring this, where were you aggregating the data from? Was it surveys with the customers? Was it their help desk? Where did you get the information to make these presentations?
We were trying to find ways. We're in the valley here where cost is always critical. We did a lot of focus groups, found out they didn't really work as well as, you only have 15 people and sometimes a focus group can go awry. Weren't sure that we were getting great information. So we had moved to really surveys where we could get an email list, a customer's email list, or we could work with our vendor on getting a list of qualified people who they would go through and make sure we had 500 or whatever really good customers that match demographics. And then we would ask them the questions that we needed to get the information. So it can go fairly quickly, and it's both quantitative and qualitative. We ask a lot of open-ended questions. Why do you feel that way? At first we didn't. We just said, here's a concept, or here's some ideas or some words. Which of these do you like best? And we weren't asking why. And it was really in the why that we found all the golden information. It was in their comments and their voice and their language that really had all the little golden nuggets in it. And so went to surveying, and with vendors like Qualtrics and others, they can help you target. Or for a company who's got a good email list, we can go into those and work with them. And it really gives us key stuff we need to know.
That's really cool. I think we're actually using this tool right now, where we will scrape the reviews from a customer and look at the frequency and sentiment of the words in those reviews, and then build those into the listing in some way. It sounds like it's a very similar process, just taking all of this information from the customers and then applying it to a brand deck. I guess the one piece that I feel might be disconnected is you've got some stats in your website that talk about, let's see, the brand connects consumers with an emotional response, which by research we know that 94% of people said they'd be highly likely to recommend a brand they were emotionally engaged with. And so I guess the question that I have is, if you get all this survey data from people, how do you really make sure that you are asking and getting insight into the emotion that they had around the purchase or the interaction that they had with the brand? How do you ask those types of questions? And are these the things that Gary Rhodes and David Whitlark at BYU were helping you with?
Yeah, it really was. Part of that is to understand the why. And it's sometimes as simple as setting up a situation, a visual situation where you say, you're walking down, for a Walmart and you're looking for weightlifting equipment. And what are you thinking when you're looking for it? Why are you looking for it? Why is it you're motivated to come in and try to find this? And what are you looking for on that package? What is it that interests you most? Those could be questions that could be asked, and they are open-ended questions. So we do a lot of open-ended questions, much more than most survey will do. And some survey people say, well, open-end is really hard because you have to really go through code it, just like I think you're doing. But the bottom line is it's in those answers of what made you feel a certain way that they'll say, well, I'm really tired of just being fat, and I felt like if I could at least do this for a half hour a day, it would help me. And so you start to understand the emotions they're feeling as they're looking for that product or they're looking at that brand. And that's that open-ended why questions about. And sometimes it's literally a saying, what emotions did you feel when you've done business with this bank that really have tied you to the bank itself. And they'll tell you, I had an experience with a manager who, came out to my car and helped me jump the car. Or they came over to my mom's house when we were trying to do some things and brought the papers to us. And so you start to see an emotional situation they had that helps explain why they stay there, why they like that product, why they're part of the love group of that customer.
The love group. And for those listening, I attended BYU from 2011 to 2018. It took so long. Gary Rhodes and David Whitlark were two of my teachers. Both have since retired, I think, Rushford, and they both have moved away. Gary might still be in town, but they took me through some very similar thinking, and it sounds like Rushford was able to incorporate these core business insights into his business model for all of his brands. So when you say love group, Rushford, talk to me about what you mean there.
Well, we're all looking for customers who really loves your product. So if we can find out why that customer loves you and your product and what you're doing, your service so much, then those are the people we want to recreate. And so a love group might be the top customers that you have. They might be the ones that buy the most of your product. They might be the ones who have engaged with you the longest. But they're customers that you wish you had, all of them have that attitude. So as we try to understand the attributes behind a product from the standpoint of the customer and then standpoint also of the business and the benefits that they're receiving and what the emotions are that are wrapped around the benefits, that really sets up a great opportunity to hear their voice and to know what they're thinking. So the best group to start with is that love group, the people who enjoy you and love your product the most. How can I duplicate, make all clients part of that love group?
So this is one of the insights that you gain from that. So you have crafted a customized research process for each of your clients. Is this something that can be democratized? Like, can everybody just follow the same framework and come up with similar insights? Or is there a specific process that you have to take them through when you're onboarding them to really help them get it? Like how easy, how simple is this process that you apply to the brands?
I think it doesn't seem that complicated anymore. After years of doing it, we really are using a laddering system, a mapping system, which is a research tool that has a variety of different ways of looking at it. But we specifically look and say to our customer first, we meet with them and say, talk to me about what your attributes are that this product or this service you're doing, you think are the best attributes you have as a company, not benefits, not what the customer sees, but just first of all, you've got a big blue button that adds more horsepower, or you have a product where you've got guarantees. They talk about their own attributes. And then we prioritize those. What's the most important attribute your company has? And it is a fun exercise because they try to come in and they have to start to agree on, well, who are we and what is our most important attribute? We do the same things with benefits and the same things with emotions. And we do that with the customer first. And then we put that into a ladder, into a mapping that puts all of it on one page. And they can look at it and go, yeah, that's exactly what we think. Then we go do that same thing with their customers or even a set of potential customers. And each time we put that on a ladder where we can compare what they think to what their love group thinks to what new customers might want and think. That helps them to go, well, gosh, that we're not thinking the same as our customer. And that's usually what ends up happening. I'd say half to 3/4 of the time, what they thought was the most important benefit the customer got might not be what it really is. So those exercises go together to help to create a visual view on a map or a ladder that shows what those customers feel and what their values are too. So there's attributes, benefits, emotions, and values. And so that's the process that we use, and it's worked really well for us.
Attributes, benefits, emotions, and values. I mean, if you're listening to this, like, just write all those down, and you can come up with like a basic framework, and then go to Rushford and this team and let them refine it for you and make a plan for you. So Rushford, I'm interested in hearing a story of a time that the brand was just absolutely dead wrong about what their customer wanted. And how you guys were able to come in, present this framework, and get them to the point where they were aligned with what their customers care about, and were able to institute a campaign that helped them in a major way that helped them reach their goals. Do you have a good example that you can share with us?
Yeah, I think I've got a couple without mentioning exact clients' names. We had
Sure.
a customer who had a product that they used for horses. And it was really interesting because it was mostly all men who ran the company. And as we went through the process with them and asking them what they thought, why are customers buying this product? This is almost all females. It was probably 80% females who buy this product for their horses to help them, to make them healthier. And they had even come up with some packaging they liked, which was very, very masculine. It was very, very, might even have been award-winning. It was really cool. But as we talked to them about what they thought, and then we went out and talked to the consumer group, which was females, specific age category, had to own a horse for over a certain period of time. And we talked to them about the product. Then we started asking them questions, and these were people who were in the love group. They had used the product before, and they had a list of those. So we were able to say, okay, what do you love about this product? What is it that you like the most? What benefits you the most with your horse? And as we started to look at the emotions and the situations, it was really interesting. What was coming out was that they loved the horse more than they loved their husbands. They liked the horse was more their friend. This was a friend that they were taking care of, like an amazing dog that you have that just gets anything it wants. And then as we then designed product to fit that actual packaging, as we tested, we'll also go out and test our designs against a love group or a open group and say, which of these designs do you like best? Which solves the following problems best for you? And as we came back with the new designs, the owner and the others said, this can't be right because this bottle we think is cool didn't even register. And the designs you did, which the designs showed a owner next to the horse, patting it, loving it, an emotional feeling about their horse, because that's what they kept saying. That's why they use the product. And it was funny because he said, well, I'm going to have my girls in back come up and look. They all fall into this category. And if they don't like it, you're fired. And they came up, they looked at the ones, and they all picked the ones that all the other women had picked because it had an emotional meaning to them. And I think that happens quite a bit where somebody who's a male has a product for a female or for an older person or for a younger. And I've got 5 daughters and my wife, and I don't know that I understand the way they think yet, really, but I'm a man. And so you've got to focus on who the client is and what they think. So in that case, it worked out really well and was a good product for them.
Interesting. So you are probably one of these people who, when you're looking around, you just are analyzing brands just while you're driving down the road. Anytime that you are considering a product, are you plagued just all the time with like evaluating whether or not they're hitting the emotion correctly, or are you able to stay pretty agnostic and keep your head in the clouds and not analyze every brand that you see just walking on the street?
Oh, no, after so much time, you look at every brand and you look at it and you kind of think, hey, this is one little shop and they probably can't go through the process of that. But colors mean things. I mean, color is the second most important thing that people look at. Shape is first and then color. So color, fonts, all of those things become really, really important when you're coming up with a brand. Also, writing style and the brand voice. By asking a lot of open-ended questions, people talk to you in their voice, and now you can start to write back to them in their voice and with what they want to know. But for me, I look at stuff and I kind of go, yeah, that's not working, or I don't understand who their customer is. But almost always, that's the first question. Tell me about your customer. Who are they? Who are your most successful customers? How old are they? What do they look like? If they walked into the room, who would they be? And so that you start to understand who that is. And that becomes critical. So yeah, you do see a lot of brands and you look at them and you think, oh, it's really pretty, but wow, it doesn't say a thing and I can't read it from a block away and it looks more like an art illustration. It's not readable. So, but I think everybody who's a designer and so forth, they look at stuff and they have their opinions. Every designer has a different opinion.
Sure. When you are you an Amazon Prime member?
Yes.
When you are looking for products, you'll notice that there are a couple different types of pictures, right? There's obviously the white background photos that are standard. You need those to be able to sell on platforms like Amazon. And then you get into like the product and lifestyle shoots. And I love asking branding agencies questions around this topic, because I myself, when I'm looking at some of these lifestyle photos, I think they look generic and kind of lame and just like what you would expect. I'm never surprised by lifestyle photos anymore. Do you get the same sense? Yeah, talk to me about these.
Yeah, your photo styling is a brand style, and I think that emotional content is really an image's most important element, regardless of the photographic technique. So one of the greatest ways of communicating the emotions to your client is show them in that successful situation, and make it the photo of the age of the people that you're selling to. They might want to be thinner, or they might want to be stronger, but in all reality, the images that we choose should allow us to create a visual of the emotions and benefits that we focused on in the research. And so it's harder to do that with stock shots. It's great when you have a customer who can go in and shoot those shots, but really the emotions they're feeling should be the emotions you feel when you look at a photograph. So if you're selling a product on Amazon and the product's supposed to do something for you, you can do a little glamour shot, or you could show them solving a problem with the shot. So and it needs to be consistent. A brand should have its own consistent photo styling. And we try to bring that out for our customers and show them samples and how they ought to shoot it, selected focus or whatever. But most of all, find that emotion. And that comes through with color, style, overall tone, the props that are in it, the elements, all of that speaks to an emotional photo. And that's what we try to get them to do.
And you create these style guides, these photo guides for your customers, right?
Right. We'll create a guide that has everything in it, from the brand foundation of what the brand is, keywords, stories, testimonials. And if you have those items in a priority and you know what those key words and feelings are, you can write social media around them all day long for a year, 2 years. And you're always targeting it right on what is the right thing to be saying to them. So we'll go in, obviously we develop visual items, photography, typography, brand, logo, but we also teach them why it's important to have a specific writing style. What is our brand narrative? Customer stories and key messages, brand keywords. We give all of that stuff to them so that their social media person, the person like you who's creating a better awareness on Amazon or so forth, you know exactly what the customer is looking for. You can take those elements, you can take the style, and you can create something that's focused and stays the same. It doesn't change every time a new marketing director comes in.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it's consistent. Earlier you mentioned color as the second most important attribute that customers look at, but the first one you said was shape. Can you
look at some?
Yeah.
So you've got a shape of something, you've got the color of something, you have what it says on it, the font, and the logo itself. So the shape logo is something that it's not a brand, but it is a key element of the brand, and it should be a kicking off point to talking about what you do. But if you'll think of something like Campbell's soup, what color is Campbell's soup's on the shelf? It's red, and you know that. And those colors, things like that, stick in our mind, and the colors tell us about who we are. A yellow can be a Walmart special color, or a green can be a color of trust. A blue is a very good, trustworthy color. And so all those elements combine to create a brand mark that people remember. You're always trying to get into their minds something that they'll remember that doesn't go away. So you want them to find something a little bit discoverable within the brand, within the color. But color rather than shape is more closely related to emotion. And colors are very emotional elements. So you want to try to make sure you have the right emotion. And that means the right colors.
I've flipped through pretty much all of the decks that you have for testimonials and examples on your website, and I see that there are a few very strong color changes and schemes that you'll put into the branding for whether it's packaging or even like the design of somebody's logo or building. Can you give me an example of a time that you made some pretty dramatic color changes to a brand that they maybe were reluctant to or, dubious of that actually ended up making a big impact for their business?
Yeah, I think there's examples like work that we've done in the past for customers like Deseret Book, or where the colors inside there, the brand on the walls, the elements that are there are colors that are soft. Who we're trying to appeal to with that customer is probably a 35 to 65-year-old female, and she might be a specific religion. She's looking for trust. She wants things. So the colors that would be in there would be colors that show trust, colors that make them feel warm and comfortable when they're there. Whereas if maybe if you're a bank where you're looking at something and somebody might say, well, I want to use red, or I want to use something really bright, a yellow, and you suggest to them, let's go with a blue or green with maybe some red accents, and it's not always the case, but in a lot of cases, that blue is a very trustworthy color. It's a color that makes me feel warm. It's trusted. You can take a room of people and say, if I was to think of a color that's trustworthy or trusting, 80% will say blue, 10% more would say green, because those are colors that are trustworthy. So in several cases, we've gone in with colors that were different than what they had before, but the colors were giving the wrong feeling. Red is aggressive, it's so forth. So that might not have been the best color for, let's say, a credit union or a bank or something like that.
Yeah, and then you have, so I'll take the example of British Petroleum, BP, for instance. They made that like, you remember the old BP logo? It was like a green shield.
Yes.
And they changed it after the oil spill to that really like cool, vibrant flower looking thing. For a brand like that, it was a shape change and like a highlight change. What do you think was some of the thinking behind like a big brand change like that, where it wasn't necessarily like the greens are still there, but they went for like sharper colors, a more flowery look? What do you think was some of the branding logic that went behind and goes behind changes like that?
Well, and I'm looking at that. I think their idea was they wanted to say we are environmentally thinking. So this kind of a flower in a sense. It's got very natural colors, bright colors, those colors of spring, and that we're conscious of those things. We're not a big conglomerate that's just a big gray color machine. We are somebody who cares. And those kind of colors really say that. They make you feel warm and fuzzy. And those are colors that I think make a real difference as you start to perceive it. And color is such a huge emotional element that you want to make sure you do that right. But I think that's really why they made those changes, and I think that's important.
I'm looking at some pictures of they cut it in half and made it look like it was a rising sun over the water, and the water's all black. Man, maybe not the good move, because they just they got memed to death on that change. But as far as your clients go, I noticed that you have some testimonials on your site, and one of them stuck out to me. It's a company called Thrive Life.
Yes.
And there's like 6 videos from their founder just talking about all the different aspects of the campaign and what you guys ended up doing for them. Can you give me some of the background of that, what they were trying to accomplish, and then how your process came into play, and what the overall impact with the campaign was at the end of the day?
Yeah, I think for a lot of firms that do graphic design, they are doing something. They want to be award-winning. They want it to be beautiful. And I think when we started with them, we went back into, okay, who's our client? What do they think of us? What is it that they are looking for? The same thing that I said to you before. And I think what they started to realize is that sometimes it doesn't matter what we think as designers. Designers often say, well, here's the solution. I know this is the greatest. And it's kind of like, how do you know that? Are you a customer? Have you talked to the customer? Their customers mostly females, especially with Thrive. It was the bulk of their clientele is females who buy food, freeze dried food to put in they use for their meals, or they use it for storage. And do you know what she thinks and why she thinks it? And I think we brought that to them and helped them to be able to see that more than they already did, to get insights that they didn't have before. And before we started to do what we're doing now, where we're creating a full brand playbook, here's everything you need to move forward. We often just did the graphic part, but we still did the research. And often our clients would take the research and apply it to their sales, to their social media, to other things. And we weren't doing that for them then. But I think that's getting those insights and saying, I understand my customer now much better than I did before. And then I think being able to do great design work, rather than being just decoration, it's intelligent design. The colors are for a reason. The brand mark is because of a reason. It should educate them to what you do. The way the photographs are taken, the way the colors are done, all of that should match that story you're trying to tell, so that it's not just decoration, it's really smart design that is designed the way it is because of what we understood from the customer. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, that makes sense. So for those people who are brand new, no pun intended. Actually, you know what? Pun intended. So for those that are brand new, that they're just getting started, what are some of the first steps? I mean, it sounds like there's a pretty clear framework that they can follow to set up their initial branding. But let's say that I just created a product. I just made a couple hundred units of it. I'm looking to list on Etsy or Amazon or my own website, or just to post them on Instagram. To nail the branding, to nail the logo, to nail the essence, to get all that stuff and set a solid foundation, what is the absolute first thing that you would tell those people to do?
I would first thing gather your group together and talk about what you think are the most important attributes and benefits and emotions that drive your customer, and put them into a priority. Just choose one. Marketing's tough because you can't market 30 things. You can't market a dozen things. You've got to market one thing or two things. So understanding the right thing you ought to be marketing and selling with your brand is the first thing. And then the second would be then go understand the customer. Don't think you know the customer. I mean, unless if you're a 25-year-old designer and you're really good and you're going to design a product for another 25-year-old designer, you might do okay, but that's almost never the case. So go get to know that customer. Understand what they think, what are the attributes they like, what are the benefits they want from that product, and if it's a successful product, what are the emotions they feel. I'd always start there, and then make sure your design reflects that. And there are some companies that they don't see it until they actually see it and they go, oh, I get it. Yeah, that mark actually expresses exactly what we do. And that's the first thing that you want to do before you put a pencil down on paper, is know who the customer is and know how they think about it through their mind. And then you've got half a chance of doing some good stuff.
A half a chance at least. Rushford, thank you so much. How can I send people to go get in touch with you? Where should I send everybody?
You can send them to our website. You can give them my phone number and tell them to give us a call. And something we always love to do to start out with is just do a stakeholder audit with them, really at no cost. We just want to find out if we're a good fit for them, and they'll be a good fit for us. And so by going through that exercise for an hour or so, it really helps us and them to see if we're a good fit. And so have them give us a call. We'll do a stakeholder audit and see if we can help them out. In the long run, we'd like to write a book that shows other people how to do this, because, I'll be gone someday. We'll be gone, and there's good designers, good products out there that need to reach the market, and it'd be great to have people know how to do it.
Perfect. Go to redcorebrands.com, redcorebrands.com, redkorbrands.com. They've got the phone number. They've got to contact us. They've got tons of information. Go and talk with Rushford and his team. And again, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
To finish today's podcast, I want to share some final thoughts. For third-party sellers to be successful on Amazon, you've got to get reviews. We at Buybox Experts are really big fans of the team over at commingle and its tools that help Amazon sellers simplify the process of soliciting reviews from customers who purchase their products. For more information, go to commingle.com. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for listening to the Buybox Experts podcast. Be sure to click subscribe, check us out on the web, and we'll see you next time.